Hey there, friend. Before you close your eyes and drift off to the soothing hum of your fan, let me warn you, tonight, you're going to sleep, but not the way you're used to. There's no memory foam here, no lavender spray, no ambient playlist, looping gently in the background. Tonight you're going back to the 1300s. And sleep, in the 14th century, was an entirely different beast. You're not going to lie down. You're not going to stretch out. And you are most certainly not alone in bed. Nope, you're perched on the edge of what someone back then had the nerve to call a bed. A sagging wooden platform, strung with ropes that creak under your weight, and covered with a straw-stuffed mattress that smells faintly like moldy hay and something else. Something alive. Probably crawling. Welcome. You look great, by the way. Very medieval chic in your scratchy second-best tunic that still smells like boiled cabbage and smoke because no one undresses for bed. You sleep in what you wore. Convenient, isn't it? The room is dim. The fire in the hearth is nothing more than a few glowing embers, blinking like tired eyes in the corner. The ceiling is low. You could sit up fast and end your night with a head injury. There are no windows, not in the way you know them. Just slats of wood, slightly ajar where the wind sneaks in like a cold finger. And around you, biddies breathing, snoring, twitching. You've got a bedmate, maybe two. Maybe your cousin. Maybe someone's apprentice who needed a place to sleep because the bridge washed out. They've already dozed off, head lolling forward in that signature medieval half-sit, half-slump. You're doing the same, or trying to. Your back aches, your neck's beginning to hum, and your entire body is curled up like you're trying to impersonate a question mark. Because here's the thing, you don't lie flat, not here, not now, not unless you're dead. See, in this time people believe strange things, or at least, they sound strange to you. Lying flat invites illness, or demons, or death, sometimes all three, depending on who you ask. People whisper about relatives who died in their sleep after lying down fully. They say the humors got stirred, the bad air seeped in, or that the soul mistook the position for death and wandered off before morning. And let's not even get started on what the church thinks. Sleep too deeply, and you're flirting with sloth, one of the 7 deadlies. Better to stay alert, even unconscious. So now you sit or slouch, or wedge yourself into an angle that feels like punishment. Your pillow, if you can call it that, is a folded tunic stuffed with straw. Every time you shift, something pokes you and you will shift, because you're not comfortable. No one is even. The cat, curled up at someone's feet, seems mildly annoyed, but at least the cat gets to lie flat. Of course its fleas get to roam freely too, so, there's that. This bed isn't really a bed, it's a shared wooden rectangle of compromise, a democracy of discomfort, and you're the newest member. Someone exhales loudly beside you, someone else coughs. From the corner, a rustle maybe. A mouse, maybe not. The scent of onion soup from supper still lingers, now mingled with wool and sweat and the faint, tragic scent of feet. You glance up. The rafters are low, uneven. You count them, not because you want to, but because there's nothing else to focus on. Counting is better than itching, at least until the itching starts, because here's another medieval surprise. You're never truly alone, especially not in bed. And I don't just mean the relatives. There are bedfellows, and then there are bedfollowers. Fleas, lice, mite, creatures who love the warmth of shared bodies and the straw lining that cradles you. They're nocturnal, just like your anxiety. But hey, you've wrapped your cloak tightly. You've kept your head elevated. You're doing everything right, according to the wisdom of the time. Congratulations. You've passed level 1. Don't lie down. You try to relax, just a bit, just enough to rest, not enough to resemble a corpse. There's a fine line. Your eyelids grow heavy, but your spine protests. Too upright and your ribs ache, too low and you're tempting fate, or at least a demon, who may or may not be the one snoring loudly behind you. The fire cracks one last time, then goes quiet. The room dips into that hush only old buildings know. Thick, weighty silence with a heartbeat, and you wonder, how did anyone sleep like this? But then you remember. They did because they had to, not for rest, not for dreams, but for survival. And so here you are, wrapped in a too small wool blanket, neck at a medically questionable angle, sharing body heat with 3 humans, a cat, and possibly a mouse. Eyes open, then shut, then open again. The wind outside shifts, the shutters rattle. You tighten your blanket, shift your weight, and let yourself sink not into the mattress, not into comfort, but into acceptance, because in the 1300s sleep isn't a luxury, it's a negotiation, and you're just trying to make it to morning. Upright. The ropes creak again. It's your 3rd adjustment in 5 minutes. But who's counting? You shift your weight, just slightly, trying to find the mythical good spot on the straw mattress if such a thing exists. But every time you move, the rope lattice underneath groans like a ship's hull under strain. You freeze, hoping no one else stirs. Someone groans anyway. Not from being woken up, just from existing. Welcome to your sleeping environment. It's not so much a bedroom as a sleeping experiment. The control group doesn't exist. Everyone's in the thick of it. You glance around, or rather, you squint. The room is dark, not cozy dark, just dark, the kind that makes the edges of furniture blur into shadows, and every creak becomes a question mark. Is that the wooden chest or your uncle? No candles, no lanterns, maybe a dying ember in the hearth across the room, glowing faintly like a stubborn star refusing to give up. You think about crawling closer for warmth, but that means stepping on someone. Again, you stay put. Let's take inventory of your surroundings. The walls, wattle and daub, basically sticks, straw, and mud. They insulate about as well as a wet sock. You can feel the wind sneaking in through the cracks, gently stroking your ankles like a ghost with cold fingers. The ceiling is low, beams exposed and blackened with decades of smoke. Some have names carved into them, not poetic inscriptions, just Mother and Pig 1327, possibly the same person. The floor, packed earth covered with rushes, some dry, some not. You're not entirely sure where the moisture is coming from, but you tell yourself it's condensation and not goat pee from earlier. The window, if you can call it that, is a hole in the wall with wooden shutters. One is slightly ajar, letting in a faint breeze that smells like wet thatch and chimney soot. You could get up and close it tighter, but that would involve standing. And if there's one rule of medieval nighttime, it's this: never move more than necessary. You're not alone, of course. This isn't just your room, it's everyone's room. The whole family sleeps here. Parents, siblings, maybe a grandmother, a cousin visiting from 2 villages over, and someone's friend who couldn't make it home before dark. There's no such thing as a guest room. There's the floor, the bench, the hearth. Pick your misery. And privacy. That's for the dead. And even then, only the rich ones. You're lucky. You're on a rope bed, a platform of wooden frame with hemp ropes strung across to support the mattress. The ropes sag. They always sag. That's why, every few nights, someone has to retighten them by hand. Sleep tight, they say. They mean it literally. On top of that frame sits the mattress, a large linen sack, stitched shut and stuffed with straw. Hey, maybe some feathers if someone got lucky at market, but mostly straw. Straw that pokes, that shifts, that squeaks, that moves. Sometimes. Every shift of your body sends up a whisper of dry plant dust and a fresh reminder that you are not in the Ritz, you are in the roots. Across the room, someone is snoring, not gently, not like a lullaby, like a millstone grinding over gravel. You pull the blanket tighter. The blanket, by the way, is woven wool, heavy, scratchy, not quite long enough to cover your feet and your shoulders at the same time, so you alternate. 1 hour you freeze your ankles, the next your collarbone. There's no turning the heat up. There's sleeping closer to the dog or wrapping yourself like a sausage. You opt for the sausage approach. And then there's the soundscape, a symphony of 14th domestic discomfort. Sniffles, snores, coughs, the occasional mutter of someone dreaming about bread or taxes or demons. You hear a soft thump as someone's elbow slips off a rolled-up cloak. A child lets out a sudden, sharp giggle, dream laughter, eerie in the dark. You count the noises like stars. It's easier than counting your regrets, but it's not all bleak. There are comforts, sort of. There's a cat curled at someone's feet, a tiny furnace of fur and disapproval. Cats were welcomed in homes, not just for warmth, but because they kept the mice in check, at least in theory, judging by the skittering near the hearth. This one might be on a break. You can just make out the outlines of objects around the room. A broom leaning in the corner, a pile of rushes for tomorrow's floor refresh, a bundle of kindling stacked like hopeful intention, a wooden cradle, empty now, but creaking anyway because the wind likes to play tricks. You catch the scent of garlic, maybe from someone's breath, maybe from the bundle someone tied to their ankle to keep away spirits. It's a folk remedy and a fashion statement. This isn't sleep for pleasure. This is sleep for function, for necessity. People don't lie in bed waiting for dreams. They hunker. They hide from the night, from illness, from the chill that creaks through the rafters like a rumor. There's no indulgence here, no silk sheets or feather pillows. Even noble households aren't exempt from the creeping cold, the bad air, the mysterious humors that drift through a room while everyone's defenseless. You sleep where you can, how you can. And if you wake up in the morning still breathing, and not coughing up black bile, then congratulations. You've passed the night's trial. You close your eyes again. There's nothing else to look at, nothing to do but breathe slowly, shallowly, so your blanket doesn't shift and your nose doesn't inhale a straw splinter. You count your breaths. The rope bed sighs beneath you. The cat twitches. The shutters rattle. Someone in the corner whispers a prayer in their sleep. And slowly, inch by inch, you allow your body to relax. Not completely, not all the way, just enough to survive. Because here, in this time, in this place, surviving sleep is enough. You're still awake, or mostly. You're in that strange gray space between alertness and dream, where your thoughts drift like smoke and your body aches quietly in the dark. And maybe, just maybe, you're starting to wonder, why is everyone here sitting upright like nervous statues? Why not just lie down? Well, let's talk about that, because in the 1300s, how you sleep isn't just about comfort. It's a belief system, a protective ritual, a nightly dance between medicine, superstition, and sheer cultural paranoia. And it all starts with one simple rule: don't lie flat, ever. Lying flat was a statement not of relaxation, not of luxury, but of finality. The dead lie flat. Saints in their tombs lie flat. Those who do not rise again lie flat. So if you lie like that, even for a nap, you might not wake up. That's not just superstition. It's deeply ingrained symbolism. Parents would scold children for stretching out too much in bed. Mind yourself, or the angels might think you're ready. Of course, there were medical reasons too. Well, medical. Doctors at the time followed the teachings of Galen, a Greek physician who lived over 1,000 years before your current medieval predicament. According to Galen and his loyal academic descendants, the human body was a delicate balance of 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Each had its own personality, season, element, and direction of travel inside the body. And all of them, somehow, were influenced by your sleeping posture too flat. Blood pools, phlegm congeals, bile rises, spirits drift. Doctors genuinely worried that lying horizontally would let vapors rise from your stomach into your brain, disturbing your thoughts or worse, inviting madness. It sounds odd now, but back then, it was cutting it. Science. So you were told to sleep with your torso elevated, not fully upright like a dining chair, but not reclined like a chaise lounge either. Just enough angle to keep the humors flowing and the demons out. Some people used bolsters, bundled cloaks, even carved wooden wedges to hold the body at the correct incline. Monks took it further. They slept in wooden stalls built into walls. No bedding, no lying, just hunched figures wrapped in wool, heads pressed to stone, half dozing between prayer bells for them. Deep sleep was indulgent, too close to sin, too welcoming to temptation, so they avoided it the way others avoided plague. And then there were the stories. Folk wisdom woven through generations. Whispered near the hearth and repeated at bedtime. Sleep too flat and the nightmare will sit on your chest. Dreams that come when you're too low are sent by the devil. Lie too long and your soul will float free. One tale told of a young man who reclined after supper just once and never woke again. They say his blood turned cold, or his stomach gases suffocated his brain. Or maybe, just maybe, something crept into his mouth while he snored, and stayed. No, one knew so best not to risk it. Superstition. Sure, but also, a kind of logic. Because in the Middle Ages, death was always close. It wasn't abstract, it wasn't rare. People died in their sleep, often from infection, from childbirth, from lung fever, fever of the blood, sweating, sickness, bad air, or just the unknown. If someone didn't wake up, you didn't call it a tragedy. You said they laid wrong, and you told your children to sit straighter. Even the church reinforced it. Iconography from the period shows saints and martyrs lying perfectly flat, hands clasped, toes pointed, the holy rest, and that posture became culturally sacred, but also terrifying. To imitate it too closely while alive. That was a dangerous invitation. Some believers went so far as to pray while positioning themselves at night. Lord, let me rise again in the morning, not metaphorically but physically. Let me wake, let me still be warm, let my chest rise, with breath and not freeze in stillness. Because sleep was never just sleep, it was a negotiation with the darkness. There were even bedtime techniques to avoid looking to dead. Keep your hands at your sides, not folded. Never point your feet straight forward. Keep your head tilted, not flat, not back. Don't close your mouth. Open mouths were for corpses, and if possible, snore at least a little. It was a reassuring sound. In noble households there might be bed rules posted, actual lists written, read aloud. Sit upright, do not sprawl, do not sleep mouth agape, do not grope, do not roll, and above all do not lie, as the dead do. It's oddly poetic, isn't it? A bedtime made of rules, postures, and implied doom. So you follow the rules, you prop yourself just enough. You let your head lean but not fall. You avoid resting your hands over your chest. You pull your cloak tight, your feet tucked, your heart cautiously hopeful, because somewhere inside, some deeply wired part of you now believes it too. You don't want to lie flat. You don't want to tempt the cold. You don't want to risk becoming the morning's quiet discovery. You just want to survive the night. And maybe, just maybe, that's the strangest part of all, because despite the questionable science, the odd beliefs, the stiff neck and the scratchy blanket, you feel safer upright, more alert, less vulnerable. You're not submitting, not drifting into sleep's dangerous current. You're still here, still halfway between action and dream, not lost, not gone, just hovering like a candle flame, flickering, watching, waiting for morning. You're not alone. You were never going to be. Not in this time, not in this bed, not in this century. Privacy, if the word even exists, belongs to the rich, the clergy, or the dead. Tonight, you're part of something much more communal. This bed, if you squint, could almost be called generous. A low wooden rectangle, wide enough for 3 small people or 2 average ones, and a snoring uncle named Leofric. Guess which one you got? You shift slightly, just to adjust the straw poking into your back. The ropes creak, the mattress rustles. Leofric snores. He's slumped to your left, slouched like a sack of barley, his arms folded protectively around his stomach as if trying to shield the world from his digestion. The air is heavy, not just with breath and wool and body heat, but with something sharper, familiar. Oh right, Cabbage, you had it for supper. He had seconds. You remember now. On your other side is something slightly more merciful. A cousin, maybe, or a sibling. They've tucked themselves into a neat little coil, barely moving except for the occasional sleepy sigh. You don't know their name. It doesn't matter in a room like this. The person next to you might be kin, might be neighbor, might be that mason's apprentice who showed up late and wet and begged for space by the hearth. If there's room, they sleep. That's the rule. No questions, no complaints, only accommodation. After all, warmth is more important than familiarity. There's a particular etiquette to shared sleep, an unspoken set of social gymnastics that takes a lifetime to master. Don't talk, don't turn too often, keep your arms to yourself. No loud breathing unless you're old, and absolutely no sprawling. That's the fastest way to earn a morning elbow or worse, a public scolding from the family matron who will absolutely say something like, "Was your bed built for king's child?" No, it was not. It was built for survival, and cramped survival. At that, some wealthier homes even had bedtime rules posted near the sleeping area, like commandments from an exhausted god. Speak only in whispers, don't laugh, don't roll over without warning, don't sleep with your mouth open, and never, ever, grope the maid. Simple stuff really, until you're squeezed shoulder to shoulder, knees knocking, with someone who breathes like they're chewing gravel. At least your corner of the bed feels slightly more yours now. You've tucked your cloak under your thigh to stop the draft. You've anchored your blanket edge beneath your knee so it doesn't migrate, and you've pulled your hood down over your ears not because of the cold, but because someone across the room is whispering. Yes, it's a thing. A soft, rhythmic wheeze like a dying bellows. It's strangely hypnotic. You start to count it like waves. 1 wheeze, 2 wheeze, pause, cough, repeat. Then comes the shuffle. Someone turning over. You feel the bed dip. Your thigh is now slightly elevated on a ridge of straw. You say nothing. You shift. Again, this is the choreography of medieval sleep. A full-body negotiation. You can't stretch out your legs without brushing someone's foot. You can't lean back without dislodging your precarious stack of cloth. You can't roll onto your side because there's no room. There's never room, so you do what everyone does. You curl. You wedge. You learn the art of stillness with slight micro-movements, a tilt here, a foot flex there, a strategic shift when someone else turns, like a synchronized dive team but more resentful. Then there are the noises: creaking wood, rustling straw, the whisper of breath, the occasional unfiltered bodily announcement, a snort, a sigh, a belch muffled under layers of blanket, and of course Leo Frick unapologetically releasing a slow rumbling fart with the confidence of a man who knows he's already blamed the cabbage. You don't laugh. You don't even smile. Because in this room, sound is shared, just like heat, air, and bed space. No one says anything. But tomorrow, oh, the jokes will be merciless. A baby whimpers in the corner. Its mother whispers a prayer as she rocks it. The cradle creaks like a ship lost in fog. Someone by the hearth coughs, then falls silent. You wait just for a moment, listening for breath. It returns, soft and wheezy. You exhale to. This is how people slept back then. Together, tense, alert, not quite asleep, not fully awake. It's not just about comfort. It's about safety. If someone stirs too much, if someone's breathing stops, someone notices. If something scurries across the floor, someone wakes. Eyes flutter open, ears strain. Even in sleep, this room is a web of awareness. You are never alone, not even in your dreams. And yet, somehow, in all this chaos, you begin to drift again. The itch in your shoulder dulls. The ache in your thigh eases. The whisper snore becomes a lullaby. You let your head lean slightly. Your breath softens. You find a pocket of peace, small, fragile, and real. For now you are part of the warmth, the noise, the breath, the bed. It's not silence, it's company. Tomorrow, your back will be sore, your legs will cramp. You may wake with someone's foot near your face, but for now, you sleep upright, angled, folded in among others like spoons in a drawer, and it's enough. Your neck is humming, not loudly, just that dull, familiar ache that whispers you've been holding your head at a weird angle for too long. You reach up to adjust the cloth beneath a taballed-up tunic that's halfway unraveling. It slips a little as you move. You try to bunch it tighter, then wedge it back into place against the wooden headboard. It's not a pillow, not really, but it's what you've got. Welcome to the 1300s, where pillows are suspicious, comfort is questionable, and a well-positioned lump of fabric might be the only thing standing between you and a week of neck spasms. Let's talk about pillows, or, more accurately, the things people called pillows in this time, because you're not laying your head on a down-filled cloud with goose feather magic and embroidered pillowcases. You're propped on a rolled-up cloak, or maybe a bundle of rags tied with string. Or if you're particularly unlucky, a carved block of wood. Yes, wood. Some monks slept with their heads resting on hardwood wedges on purpose, not because they had no better option, but because softness invited temptation. A soft pillow, after all, made the body too relaxed, and a relaxed body let the devil wander in. Even among common folk, pillows were not guaranteed. They weren't seen as necessities. They were symbols of status, of sloth, of spiritual vulnerability. Some believed that resting your head too gently led to laziness. That softness in bed translated to softness in character. That indulgence in sleep weakened not just the body but the soul. Children were told, hard beds make holy minds. And you were expected to take that to heart, quite literally so. Instead of feather-stuffed dreams, you get practicality. A tunic that doubles as neck support, a cloak that folds into a half-decent prop, a sack of oats, if you're feeling bold, and for some, nothing at all. Just lean back against the wall or slump forward in a huddled curl. Gravity does the rest. Eventually you adjust again. The straw in the mattress shifts beneath you. Something sharp jabs you just below the shoulder blade. You ignore it. You've gotten good at that. The cloth pillow behind your head smells faintly of lanolin and smoke. It's stiff in the middle and frayed at the edges. You think you can feel a seam pressing into your skull, but you're not complaining, because even a slightly elevated head is a victory in this time. Why? Because lying flat, as you've learned, is dangerous, and pillows such as they are serve as posture enforcers, not comfort accessories. There's a kind of strategic layering involved. First, the base, a folded blanket maybe, then a tunic rolled tight, then your hood pulled up for padding, then your head not too heavy, not too far back, just enough tilt to keep the humus flowing and your lungs open. You look like a pile of laundry with a face, but you're surviving. That's what matters. Now, if you lived in a noble house, things might be different. They had pillows, real ones, some embroidered, some filled with down or wool, some perfumed with dried herbs to ward off pests and evil thoughts. They even had bed bolsters, long cushions placed behind the back to keep the body elevated while sleeping upright. Some of them were adjustable with ties or slats. A kind of medieval recliner, if you will, but still angled. Always angled, because even the wealthy didn't lie fully flat. They had luxury, yes, but not trust. Of course, feathers were valuable. Feather beds were passed down in wills. They were collateral for loans, and sometimes stolen. One family feud started over a disputed goose-down mattress, which allegedly contained more wealth than the pig cart. Feathers meant comfort. Comfort meant status, and status came with judgment, because if your pillow was too soft, people asked questions, uncomfortable ones. Some devout households went the other direction. They believed even cloth pillows were dangerous, that they lulled the body too deeply, disconnected the spirit, made you vulnerable to nocturnal visitors, both spiritual and insectoid. So they got creative, leaning against the headboard with a wooden staff braced under one arm, sleeping with a stone under the pillow to remind themselves not to enjoy it, filling their cushion with nettles or dried beans. A natural massage, if you're into that sort of thing. One chronicler even noted a woman who sewed fish bones into her bolster to prevent sinful dreams. Sleep, in other words, was not supposed to feel good. It was supposed to feel deserved. You sigh, adjusting again. The cloth bundle behind your head has started to slide. You reach up, push it back into place, then settle in, chin down, eyes half shut, neck at an angle that screams chiropractor in modern times. It's not comfortable, but it's correct by 14th century standards. Your feet are still cold, your shoulders ache, and the only part of you truly supported is your upper spine, thanks to a tunic stuffed into the right shape by blind luck and desperation. But hey, you've done it. You've achieved medieval sleep posture, slightly upright, marginally supported, spiritually cautious. You're practically a role model. Somewhere across the room, someone mutters in their sleep, a sentence half-formed, something about soup and socks. You pretend not to hear it. A gust of wind rattles the shutters. You flinch, then settle again, and you wonder, just for a moment, what would it feel like to lie back fully, to let your head sink into something soft, to sprawl, to sigh, to stop guarding yourself. But then you remember, that's how the dead sleep, and you're not ready for that, not yet.